everything had to fall apart. It had to, for me to be who I am today,
Yeah.
because it was a house of cards. It was built on a foundation of shame and trauma and lack of worthiness. You name it. I had zero self-esteem. I thought I was the most confident person in the world
Hmm.
because my confidence was based on what I looked like, what I made, what was in my
It
driveway.
was a mask, right? It was your armor.
100%. Yep.
It was your armor.
hmm And so just a complete 180 from that. And it took years, and I still work my process all the time, all the time.
Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod.
Hi, love. Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod. I am so glad and grateful you're here. Surprise, surprise, I have another amazing conversation lined up with a freaking soul-led powerhouse, business owner, mother, grandmother, and woman. Rita Marie Mendez is on the podcast today, and holy crap. This was one of those episodes that I was writing down so many notes as we were talking, because not only did I want to highlight them for you as the listener, I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to really digest these things and apply them and integrate them into my own life. This woman is the ultimate embodiment of resilience, of reclamation of power, of knowing that your soul is here for something more. I was brought to tears by her story. She shares very vulnerably where she comes from and how that informs her work today. Here's a little background on who she is and what she does. So, Rita Marie Mendez is the founder of the Stop Bending Over podcast, Wealth and Wisdom, Elevated Masterminds, CEO Mastermind, Master Your Money Mindset workshops, and Breakthrough Group Coaching. Over the past 10 years, Rita has had the honor to coach and mentor hundreds of clients, supporting them in achieving 6 and 7 figure businesses. She's helped them find more harmony, success, and growth, and release limiting beliefs that have held them back from having the life they desire. She started on a journey of self-discovery in 1998, and it led her to become a coach and ultimately to obtain a master's degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. She uses business strategy, spiritual principles, and mindset work to support clients in achieving their goals. That doesn't even begin to describe the energy that is in this queen. She is a tell it like it is, call you forward, not allow you to live in your story kind of coach. We have so many parallels, in our stories and in the things that we're passionate about and in the ways that we help and support people. Just a couple of things that we talk about is how shame limits our capacity to receive. We talk about codependency, and she gave real life examples of how myself and all of you listening might be engaging in codependent behaviors and how to break free of that. She teaches what the drama triangle is and how she leverages that to help herself and her clients. She talks about how prosperity is our birthright. I'm going to repeat that. Prosperity is our birthright. She talks about it's all about having a high commitment and low attachment. And she also talked about how she entertained the question, and I love this, are perfectionists born or made? And this just kind of scratches the surface. Y'all, please grab your journal, your notebook, your voice note, whatever you got, because this one's a good one. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Mama, to the Unperfected Pod, where we normalize normal and find freedom in a life unperfected. I'm so excited because today I've got a friend that I've made in one of the, you guys know, I join endless personal and professional development programs. And I met this queen in one of them. Rita Marie Mendez, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad I'm here. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we were just talking before we hit record. You are settling in from a move. You literally just got back from a trip. So you're just
Yes.
doing all the things, but tell the people,
Yes. All the things.
like, do we need to start with a 10-minute breath work before we transition in?
Yes. Let's do that. Yes. Let's start with breath work. Everyone take a deep breath in. Oh, and pull your shoulders way, way up high. Pull your shoulders up. Shoulders up.
Okay.
Deep breath in, and then on the exhale, let your shoulders drop. If you're sitting in a chair, you're driving your car, just let your back rest, knowing that you're always fully supported, guided, divinely, and protected. There, see? That's always better.
Oh my God, that was beautiful. It's like you knew that I
Yes.
needed that too.
We all need a reset. Breathing is our easiest reset.
And it's always available.
100%. We just forget sometimes. It's all we get busy.
Yeah. I want to talk about why we're so good at forgetting as women,
Why we're
especially in
so good?
business.
Is that a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah. It's a real question, but I want you to be able to let everybody know who you are and a little bit about what you do so they understand the context that we're having a
For
conversation.
sure. They're like, why is this lady having us breathe and raise our shoulders up?
Because she's multi-talented, okay?
So I'm a transformational and soulful business coach for women entrepreneurs. I have a podcast, the Stop Bending Over podcast, pun intended.
Heck
A lot.
yeah.
It's to align your life for radical success, and I really help women notice, identify where they're holding themselves back, where it's really about codependent tendencies in women and what we do. And that's why it's called Stop Bending Over. Literally, we're either bending over forward to feel screwed or backwards to do everything for everyone except ourselves. We end up last in line. So, I think it's very much in alignment with your audience of women. I've owned a business since I was 21 years old and had kids, and it was ups and downs, and it's a lot on our nervous system. It's a lot for us emotionally. And when we have the global consciousness of women that runs through our veins as women, we get just in society, in the norm, quote unquote, of how women are in society. We've had programming for eons before we ever showed up about what roles women play. And so whether we realize it or not, or conscious of it or not, that's still running in our DNA. And, how do we make all these things work and have a loving relationship, whether you're with a same-sex partner or opposite sex? It doesn't really matter. It's just about us as women showing up for ourselves in the highest way possible. And no one really teaches us that when we're young. And so coming from a very abusive household, it was my journey to learn how to do that for myself, and now teach other women how to do it for themselves. So it's not what I do, it's who I am. It's very passionate about it, and it lights me up. And so I'm really happy to be here today to talk to your community about that.
You almost just like served up the next question that I was going to ask, which is,
Nice.
how did you get into the work that you're doing? And how does your upbringing, just your story, your journey up to this point inform the work that you share with the world now? So
Yes.
you did
Well,
mention you grew up in an abusive household.
yeah.
So
So, and I find coaching, I've been a coach for a long time, over 15 years. And what I've heard over and over and over from women that are CEOs of billion-dollar industry and people that are just, at stay-at-home mamas taking care of their babies, is that most people grew up in a fairly dysfunctional household where maybe people don't have a lot of emotional sovereignty. They aren't nurtured in all the ways that psychologically, as we develop as humans, there's stages to development. And when they don't get nurtured psychologically, then what happens is chronologically, we get older. And psychologically, we have these little areas that sort of get skipped over. And so then the child copes, obviously. Humans are very good at survival.
yeah.
And as the child copes, they make different limiting decisions, not consciously, they're just coping with their environment. So when you grow up in a household that could be from, fairly great to extremely abusive, a child is constantly making meaning about their world and who they are in that world. And then they start adopting these ways of being in order to cope with however, whatever experience they're having.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you grow up in a really highly abusive, like with alcoholic, with addiction issues, which is what our family was, then what happens is it creates codependent tendencies and behaviors in all the family members, and they show up differently. And so my journey was, moving out really at a young age, at 15, to get away from the extreme dysfunction, and got a full-time job and took the GED and just was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. They were on welfare. It was always something. It was just very chaos. It was always chaos and drama.
Yeah.
And so it took a while for me to get past that. But here's the thing is, I thought I was past it the minute I left. I wasn't. I was very unconscious about, even someone had said to me, I think I was 21 and I had had my first daughter, and someone had said to me, oh, because your dad's an alcoholic. And I remember my whole body getting hot. Like I was so embarrassed and angry, like, no, he's not. I mean, he was a severe alcoholic. But so roll forward, I'm 21. I'm still not even conscious of it yet.
Yeah.
And this is the journey that people are taking, women especially, is that there's a lot of shame, a lot of shame, and that limits our capacity to receive. And so my thing was always wanting to make a lot of money so I wouldn't be like them. So I wouldn't be on welfare, and I'm not going to have kids and do that, which I did. And by the time I was 33, I'd made $1 million in a year.
Wow.
I set out to make my $1 million. I think I was 33, turning 34, made my $1 million. And to me, money meant everything. And
It meant
that's
safety and security, right?
100%.
It was
Brooke.
like live or die
It
for
was
you.
everything. Because if I
It
had
meant
that,
freedom from the abuse, right?
yes, and safety, like you said, it goes back to the nervous system, because a child with a nervous system that's always on high alert is always looking for safety. But here's what I'll say is, familiarity doesn't equal safety, but the nervous system doesn't know that. And so the nervous system operates on familiarity equals safety. It's not true. So that's the unconscious piece. So my safety was a holding frequency of money at 0. So I made $1 million. We did very well every year. And every year there would be a wedding and a funeral with our fucking money. Why? Because my holding frequency was 0. Unconscious. I didn't know that. Within 2 years after I made that money, we were in bankruptcy court because I had outrun my identity and I had to go back to my story, unconscious. And that nervous system was felt very safe being in chaos and drama around money and being poor and all the things and the shame. And that is how I started in this business. My attorney, which is hilarious, was like, you should probably go to this weekend seminar. I'm like, is it going to help the business?
Is it going to make me more money?
He's like, well, I just think you should go.
Long term, yeah.
I just think you should go. And now you're talking to someone that grew up in a very low income area. So my job and my husband, we were unconscious together, was you work your ass off. You have an amazing work ethic and you just keep going. So the consciousness was just that dense, very dense. So he said that, and I was like, okay, I guess if it's going to help the business, I'll go. Well, it was like an Erner Werhardt-esque training. For those of you that know what that is, it's basically throwing you into the deep end. It's a weekend seminar of undoing and unraveling all your unconscious stuff. So I walk in and I'm in the back of the room like on Thursday or Friday night. I'm thinking, I am fucking out of here the minute these fools are done talking, because I don't even know what they're talking about. It scared me. It triggered all my safety, all my being seen as not enough. And it just was wrong for me, 100%. So I left, and that was like Friday night, and I saw my attorney. I was like, I don't know what you were thinking, but I'm not doing that. Okay, yeah, he was so kind. I just think back like, man, this guy knew what was going on. It would be like me doing that to someone now. It was just an amazing thing that he did for me. And so a couple months later, the lawsuits and all the other things were getting kind of out of control. And he's like, Rita, just stay in the back of the room. I'm telling you, I think it's going to help. I'm like, they're weird, Vic. They're weirdos. they're like crying and
You're talking
everyone's
about trauma. Like, I don't have
Mhm.
any trauma.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't have any major traumas.
No, I was perfect. I've always been thin, just naturally, always my whole life. So I walk in with all my, I think back then it was the Gap. I had all my, had like my band tennis shoes on and my little Gap shorts and my little collar, my rolled collar. It looked very preppy. Everyone would say, "You're such a yuppie." And I remember thinking, "Thank you."
Yeah.
I
You're
just
like, because
loved
it
it.
costs money to be a yuppie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Gap is it.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
my BMW. I mean, and
Yeah.
I worked for all that stuff and I wanted people to see me a certain way because then I wasn't that girl. Then I wasn't that
Mm,
girl.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, that second time he just said, "Just Rita, just whatever you do, just don't leave. You don't have to just sit in the back. Just don't leave." And I did exactly what he said. And by Sunday, I had the biggest release and I was in the back trying to get people to sign up for the next thing that they were going to do. And that was it. I
Yeah.
was hooked. It
Wow.
was, it was so much freedom inside to not hold on to all the anger and shame. Not that it all went away, but I felt freedom that I had never felt before internally. I'd never felt that. And
Wow.
so it was
How much
yeah,
time was between the one that you didn't go that you
probably 2 or 3 months, 2 or 3 months.
Wow, so what happened inside you that you were ready to
I
receive
don't
at the second
what's funny
one?
is I think that everything that was happening, I think our house was gonna be they were threatening foreclosure, all these things were happening and everything was happening, quote, unquote, "to me." And
Yeah.
so I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. That was my mantra, sort of, was,
Mm,
"God, what am I doing wrong? I'm the smart one." That's what I would tell myself. "I should know. I should know how to figure this out." So even now when clients say, "I'm trying to figure it out," I want to just stop doing that because that's the mind that has the story is just looping. You're not gonna get anywhere from there. And that's
mhm,
what he probably saw that and he's like, "Just sit there." And so I
mhm,
think there was a part of me that just was my soul was it was the next iteration. It was like, "Okay, and I
mhm.
sat in the back and I remember my legs trembling. My body was actually nervous to be in the room with that much compassion and that
Oh,
much grace and loving. I had never experienced anything because my life had been so harsh.
yeah.
The way everyone was very harsh. There was no nurturing or hugs. We just didn't get that. That's not how we grew up. And so it just was a 180. And so that's what started it. And then I just did personal transformation work because I felt so much better. I had never planned on being a coach.
Mhm.
And I was always in coaching programs. I don't know how I ended up in coaching programs. I just did. Not to be a coach, but for myself.
Yeah.
And then by the time, 2008 or so rolled around, I started coaching teens in crisis and doing different things and coaching women just in my living room. We would get together and I just always ended up with the leaders in the industry in their groups. It's just my soul sort of little journey and was
Mhm.
mentored by Debbie Ford and Jack Canfield and just privately mentored. It was just an amazing, I've been trained by the most amazing humans in this industry. And so then ended up in a master's degree in spiritual psychology in 2010. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
So
god, that's
it's,
cool. What is a master's in spiritual psychology? Because that sounds amazing.
well, it's a master's in psychology. Then you do all your own personal work on all your shit for 2 years.
Yep, yep, I did that. I
So,
got my master's in counseling psychology.
so,
That's just
a
basically
lot of,
therapy. Yep,
yeah. So it's a lot of counselors were in that to get a
yep.
second master's because it was going to help them and their therapy practice to also move into coaching as well,
Mhm,
because it's not a coaching program. It's a master's degree. And it's very much, we did trios every single weekend.
mhm.
So a lot of gestalt, a lot of different therapies, a lot of research, but experiential. We didn't just research thing. We actually did it. So we had trios and you would move from neutral observer to facilitator to client.
Mhm.
And it's one of the reasons I'm such a fucking amazing facilitator is
Yeah.
because I've been doing it for like that for like 20 years. Cause that's thrown in the deep end. That first weekend was facilitation. I'm like, I'm not sitting with my knees touching your knees, you weirdo.
Yeah.
Facing you with my eyes open? No, I'm out. I'm out. You guys are weird
With
freaks.
my eyes open, like, I'm
With my
actually
eyes.
supposed to make eye contact with
Yes, I
you
would.
that close while you
I
can
was.
look into my soul?
It's like,
Fuck off.
I'm just gonna look over there. Look over there. My feet. It
Oh
was
my
so
god.
awkward.
It's
And
so
now,
awkward.
I just love it. I love.
Well, that's probably what makes you such a phenomenal coach because those, like, learnings and teachings and tools
Yeah.
and methods are just, like I don't know. They're life-changing. It's so
Yeah.
much people don't understand this about coaching. It's so much more than having a
Mhm.
cheerleader who helps you achieve your goals. Yes, that is like one teeny tiny percent, but it's like the unblocking and the
Mhm.
peeling of the layers and the helping you find your
Mhm.
blind spots and the working through it and the
Yes.
reprogramming. It's like this is like lifelong journey work
It
that you are
is.
doing.
It's such a great way to put it because and, as a coach, people want like, think about it. The number one best-selling books and on YouTube, and if you Google things, is how to, and then fill in the blank, right? Everyone wants to know how. And when it comes to success, and like for your busy mamas and your community and mine as well, when we're as women, we've got businesses and homes and littles and all the things like I have grandkids now and they're littles and even me juggling them and then my kids and then all the other things in my business and all the things,
All the things.
relationships and everything, is that we lose sight of us. We lose sight of us. And so the transformational journey of a lifetime is to just come back to the remembering of who you are. It's not about doing anything. It's just remembering who you are, which is this divine, unconditional, loving soul that came in to have this experience. And we get to choose. That's what God gave us, free will. We get to choose. And what I love is supporting women through that. And I'm not a great cheerleader for my clients, Brooke.
Yeah, I'm a
I'm
truth teller. I'm a good
yeah,
mirror.
I'm a fire.
I'm
I
a
do fire
disruptor.
and wire. Well, I do fire and water. And so what I do is
Me too.
I
Me
call
too.
people up because when
Mhm.
they're in their shit, I'm not going to if I get in your boat with you, your story boat about whatever it is, it's hard, you don't understand. If I get in that boat, then where are we going to go? We're going to go float around. So I
Mhm.
always see, and I ask women, you be the lighthouse, you be on shore. So that's me. I'm the lighthouse. So you're not going to run into the rocks because I'm going to mirror back to you the shit that you're doing that you say you don't like because we
Mhm.
go unconscious. So I
Mhm.
tell people, notice where you go to sleep in your life. Where do you go to sleep with your money? Because I'm the money lady. That was my thing, was always money workshops. I do the energy of money workshops. My group is wealth and wisdom. It's always about let's get rich as fuck, ladies. Let's get
Hell
rich as
yeah.
fuck because
Yes.
then we even have more power, more
Yes.
freedom, more, more. And not in a way
More
that,
influence
yes,
in a
and
positive direction, in a remembrance of love and all
yes.
the right principles.
Yes, because as you know, is that we prosperity is our birthright. It's
Yeah.
innate in us. And the undoings of like we're talking about how people grow up. You grow up with a scarcity mindset, then everything looks like it's not enough or there's lack and there's coming. When you're creating from a space like that, everything is limited. And what I've seen the most in women is the really low capacity to receive even a compliment. If I hear one more, when I hear women, oh, sorry, like stop apologizing for being on the earth. Stop.
Totally. Like,
Because
my
it
hairs on
blocks.
my neck stick up because it's, like, so prevalent.
Hmm.
The energetic
It's,
behind that is so
yes.
felt.
And we don't realize as women how powerful we are.
Mm.
And it comes from an empowered, when you have emotional sovereignty, is what I've always said is that I'm a sovereign nation unto myself in my emotions. I only have control over three things: thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. That's it. Not you, not my kids, nothing, not politics, not the gas prices, zero. Just those three things. But that means I've got power. And my point of power is always in my response. How am I responding? Not reacting, not being triggered, being crazy ass, but responding. How am I responding to the events around me? Because I determine the outcome by responding to the event. And
Mhm.
so that's how I see life. And so life works out because it mirrors back to me my internal reality. Everyone on this podcast, so let's do this for them right now.
Mhm.
Everything in your life, everything in the physical 3D that you have is a mirror of your internal reality.
Mm.
There's not enough money in your bank account. There's somewhere inside of you, there's a block to either your worthiness, the value that you think you add. It's hard, whatever the story is. So when you take a look at your life, it's sobering when you realize that we're the co-creators. It's sobering and it's liberating. Like
Yes.
I have that much fucking power.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, let's go.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what I will say is when we realize that, then we need the support. of a coach, of a group, of being in like-minded community, of these podcasts that are uplifting. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yes.
I don't know anyone that does this on their own. No one,
No.
not one
No.
person. Mm-mm.
No. It's a waking up together.
Yes,
And part of
agreed.
the remembering, and this is what I want people to understand about money and wealth, and we'll get further into it, is like when one woman remembers her worth and that translates as wealth, she reminds the woman next to her of
Mm-hmm.
her worth and how that translates into wealth. And so when we're in group, that remembering
Mm-hmm.
can be facilitated in an accelerated way, you know? And that's why I'm
100%.
always in 17 fucking programs because I get, first of all, you and I have this in common. We're like information, personal development junkies.
Mm-hmm.
Like growth is like core to our soul's existence here, right?
Yep.
Part of our
Yes.
purpose. And we want to grow and evolve. And we know that we can do that when we're surrounded by people that are on the same path, people that are interested in saying yes. But you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely right. It's kind of a brutal awakening at first. You're
Mm-hmm.
like, fuck, dude, it's all on me. And it
Mm-hmm.
is so true. It's like your inner world will create your outer reality. And I've been saying that and
Mm-hmm.
saying that and saying that. And I hope that people are starting to let that in because, as painful of a truth as that is, when you finally digest it, you become so fucking powerful
Right.
because there is nothing holding you back but you, and you can
Mm-hmm.
control that. And it's
Exactly.
exactly liberating. It's like, let's go, then let's clean this shit up, you
And
know?
that's when, to me, when we make those decisions, we don't realize sometimes that we've made a decision. Like there's like some sort of download or a breaking point. We're like, okay, done.
Mhm.
And then what happens is when we're like, yes, I want that. What when one is committed, what's the proverb? When one is committed, providence moves. Not until one is committed. It's part of that little blip is it's when one is committed. So what I see is when the commitment level is high, when there's just a down low, you're like, that's done. No fucking more. And you're like, I don't want to have a bank account or more month than money. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of having a shitty relationship, whatever that is with myself or with my partner or anyone else. When we do that, what happens is there's just a little bit of an opening. And then when that means providence moves, what happens is someone shows up on your path, a
Mhm.
teacher, a
Mhm.
mentor, some email of somebody's offering some group, like you said, with a like-minded community. And when you say yes to you, the next step after being committed is being willing. Because
Yeah.
until you say yes, the universe cannot come to support you because you have the power. You have the choice. We have free will as humans.
Mhm.
And when I see that, when those women come in to my groups, they're the ones that make the fucking complete 180. They triple their revenue. It's amazing what the women do in my groups. And I know because I've done it in groups. I still
Mhm.
do it if I'm in my mastermind.
Yeah.
I'll scale my business, I'll double my revenue. And that's what they do. That's why I say, women, let's go. And I'm what I was saying, like not a cheerleader, because I call people up. I'm like, I call people up to the next level of their iteration of their being in this world,
Mm.
because we've just masked it with all of our funky behaviors, unconscious behaviors. And you were just saying, for when we realize, okay, let's go, but then they're like, oh, what do I do? Because until we have the awareness that something's not working,
Mm.
nothing can happen. I always say fucking DSD, but nothing happens unless you change your mind.
Mhm.
You cannot create from the same mind that created all the drama.
Mhm.
So changing your mind, right? And transformation and success and all that happens at the speed of your own safety of your nervous system. That's why, to
Yes.
me, I like being in groups. I know that I always have a couple coaches at once
Mhm.
because there's so much probably locked away in different compartments in my unconscious from all that trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
I don't even have memories for like a good 8 years from when I was young, just
Yeah.
gone. And that's a protective mechanism in psychology, as you know, for
Yes.
children of that kind of abuse. We
Yeah.
suffered all them. You list them all, check, got them all four of us. It's pretty
Mm.
traumatic. And
Mm.
so for whatever reason, my soul was just not meant to stay in
Yeah.
that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of my brothers was not so lucky. And so I just see like, wow, this is, it saves lives. This work saves lives.
Mhm.
Literally, I'm here. I'm living proof of that. And
Mhm.
so when we have the awareness, like, wow, I'm looking at my external reality and I don't fucking like it. Then second step is acceptance without judgment.
Mhm.
You just accept it. You're not saying you like it. You're just like, I see it. I don't like it, but I'm not judging myself. I was doing my best yesterday or last month or 2 years ago, as you know.
Yeah.
Once you have the judgment, you're not going anywhere. You're locked to it like glue. It's resistance, and you're just going to stay right there,
Yeah.
judging yourself, shaming yourself, shoulding yourself. So it's 3 steps: awareness, acceptance without judgment. Like, I do not fucking like my bank account right now. And then third, then you move into aligned action. What's aligned for me? I don't know if I could afford a group, or maybe I listen to these podcasts. These are completely free. I can do that. I can uplift. I can get into Facebook community. There's things that we can do, but just to say I can't is an excuse. And it's an old pattern to just notice when we give ourselves excuses and justifications for why we don't have what we want. And so I do 3 steps to basically everything. It's always awareness, acceptance without judgment, and then moving into aligned action. And so much self-forgiveness and compassion for our journey. So much self-forgiveness, because that's everything to me. Forgiving myself for what I make things mean about me, gold,
Yeah. Well,
gold.
yeah, and like that's what
Mm-hmm.
what's coming through in this conversation. Like you're dropping truth bombs that will really help people change their lives. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I'm just like feeling so much love and compassion towards your inner child and the
Mm,
shit that she went through and the things that
yes.
she had to go through. And then like
Mm-hmm.
that badass soul that was inside of you that had
Mm-hmm.
bigger plans. Like I think that's why I resonated with you is,
Mm-hmm.
and we also have other similarities that I'll get to here in a minute, but like, I love that your story, your beingness
Mm-hmm.
is an example that there's always so much more that we came here to do, even with the shittiest of
Oh my
circumstances.
gosh, for sure. Like someone said, "Oh, you made your mess your message." I said, "Oh, well, God did. I didn't plan on it when I went to that seminar." It's
Yeah.
there's something to be said about co-creation, and that my soul came in to have this exact journey,
Mm.
and we still get free will. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I know exactly my soul, the name, how I came in, what I'm here to do, my partners in that soul realm, all of it. Because I do a lot of deep, obviously, as you know, work, deep breath work. My breath work sessions that's when I get all my wisdom.
You do breath work too. Breath work's
Hmm.
new to me, but I'm like,
Oh, it's so great
I
work.
joined Sam Skelly's mastermind. Do you know who
Okay.
she is?
I don't.
She is the creator of Pause Breathwork. She
Oh,
facilitates all these people. She has like the biggest facilitator certification program in the world.
oh,
And
wow.
Kathy has her on. Kathy and her do all these things
Oh,
together,
I think, yes, I know who you're
which
talking
is was
about. Yeah.
so random because I was like in Kathy's program and I joined the life mastermind. So a lot of the girlies in that mastermind are
Hmm.
breathwork facilitators. And so it's
Nice.
very woven into our program. And it's been
Hmm.
like blowing my fucking mind. I mean, we start every Monday, 9 to 10 with an hour long breath work. And I
So good.
prioritize that because what I get out of that 1 hour is like everything that I need for
Yep,
the week
for
as
sure.
a everything.
Yes.
Um, okay, but you
Well,
were saying your soul
because
came
it
here,
gets
you
us.
knew all these
Yes.
things. You
Yes.
knew all these things because you do the deep work. You go
Hmm.
there.
Yes. I like going there.
I do too.
Sometimes people
I'm
have to
one of
come
those
and tap me to
weirdos.
get me back. Yeah. I like it. Well, and I think that, like, as you know, probably most of your community, if not all, are seekers or lifelong learners, or they wouldn't keep listening. Do you know what I mean? So
Totally.
what I have realized is that when your souls, for whatever reason, whatever, let's say the soul contract, if it's to be in poverty, they won't be listening to this podcast,
Hmm.
because it wouldn't even be an awareness to do that.
Hmm.
Do you know what I
True.
mean?
100%.
And so if a soul is going to be unconscious its entire life journey as a human here, it's not going to listen to this kind of stuff. It's not going to resonate. It's going to be like, what's that shit? No, no. They wouldn't have come
I'm
back. Like,
good.
I
I'm
came
good
back.
with
Yeah,
where
I'm
I'm
good.
at.
Yeah, what's that weird stuff, right? And
Mhm.
so so the people that listening, like I always tell my clients is like, you're here for a reason,
Yeah.
even if it's one tidbit. And so you as the host, what a beautiful piece of loving that you're bringing to people so that all it takes is for you to touch one person, Brooke, one, and
Yeah.
think of the ripple effect of that.
It's
That's
huge.
why I started my podcast is because I thought people have to pay obviously money to come into my coaching at my groups or individual coaching, and they don't have to pay for a podcast.
That's
And
right.
so I'm on there just like you, just wanting to um, raise the consciousness of the planet. That's my job here is to elevate the consciousness of the planet. And I used to say a long time ago, one person at a time. I don't say that anymore. It's just being the light, because that's what I came in for was born into darkness was when my awareness was that I was the light born into darkness, which was that family. And then after that, the download was I wasn't the light born into the darkness. I'm just the light, period.
Mm.
And that just
Mhm.
like, yeah, I was just like, oh, the sweetness of that.
Ooh, that shit gives me goosebumps right
Yeah, it's just,
now.
and we all have light bearer inside of us. And it's
Mm.
just, it gets covered up
Yeah.
by our experiences and what we've made those experiences mean about us and about the world and about other people. And so how we get held back is all the meaning, because the noggin is a meaning making machine, as you know,
Yep.
and we make up a lot of stories and then we hypnotize ourselves. So like when I would put people, you know, as you know, it's not hard to do hypnosis. It's just getting them in a relaxed state. And people say, oh, you hypnotize? Is that scary? I went, not as scary as the shit that you're telling yourself all day and you're in a trance of a story that limits you. Like, get a grip. What are you fucking scared of?
Nothing is as scary as being in my head after a night of drinking a bottle of wine and eating a plate of brie cheese and buying shit I'm not going to remember. Nothing is worse than
Yeah,
the shame that
QVC is
I'm
not
in.
your friend when that's
Yeah.
happening.
No.
No, get off of QVC, Brooke.
Well, okay, and so another part that was so beautiful, by the way. That was
Mm,
I feel like that's really gonna land on some friends. But what is also beautiful about your story that I really resonate with, and I think a lot of the listeners do too, is how perfectionism and overachieving is a trauma response.
yes, I was perfect. Perfect. My house was perfect. Everything was perfect, had to be perfect. And it is very much a trauma response because I remember years and years ago and I thought, are perfectionists born or made? And I thought,
Oh,
yeah, are
God, what a
perfectionists
wise fucking question to be
mhm,
asking yourself.
I know. Are perfectionists born or made? And, recovering from that isn't about letting people see you with like a, piece of lettuce in your teeth. It's not that. People think it's like, oh, how I look. Yes, and
Mm,
it's everything. We don't ask for what we want because we can't be seen as needy because you got to look perfect. You got to act like you have all your shit together.
yep,
I know because this is what I did for the first fucking 3 decades was
same.
I needed to not be right. I needed to not be like them on welfare, alcoholics. I never had a sip of alcohol till I was 28 years old. I'm like, no, losers, right?
Mhm.
That
Yes.
because so what was born was this like driven and I'm a 3 on the Enneagram also
Is that
that
the
also
achiever? Is that the achiever?
of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
right? And so it's just like everything had to be great, success, all the things because I wouldn't then I'd be okay. But as
Yeah.
you know, that's a vortex of neediness that can never fucking get filled like that. It's not how it works. That's outside in. So I lived my life outside in and the anchor were my 2 kids. So I was like Betty Crocker, I had the apron. I sewed, cooked from scratch, everything. Sewed, cooked, did soccer coach. I did all the things, the
Wow.
room mom, all the things. They went to Catholic, everything had to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And they had amazing manners. I mean, they're great humans. But it was part of the paradigm is I'll never be like them. And then underneath all that, the shame that held it there was I would end up just like them, fucking broke. Do you see what I mean? This is
Yeah.
the nervous system that's just used to the modeled behavior and what felt safe was to be in chaos. Even though on the surface, we looked like we had everything together. Owned a business, had a boat, we had all the shit, dirt, but all the stuff, race
Yeah,
cars,
that's how you made your first $1,000,000 is sheer adrenaline and survival mechanism trauma response.
100%. And
Right?
the year that I decided to do it, the funniest part about that story is we were making very good money in the 90s, very good money.
When you say
And
we, who are you talking about?
I was married for 23 years. So we always had
You and your
my
partner at
husband.
the time.
Yes, my
Okay.
husband.
Okay.
And so we had a business. And so we always made, I don't know, let's say 350. It was quite a bit for the
Mhm.
90s. Let's get real.
Yeah.
Uh, and we would spend every penny, every fucking penny. And so I thought, okay, if I make $1 million, all my problems are going to be solved. This is how I did the $1 million. And so
Mhm.
what I did, what that I didn't know that I did, and I think this probably was the beginning of my soul starting to come through,
Mhm.
was I didn't know how to make $1 million. We were making the same amount every single year. How was I going to quadruple our revenue with
Right.
just me and him and his laborer? We had a construction company.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go ask an attorney. So I drug my husband with me, who is, no, salt of I mean, he's not my husband now, but
Mhm.
salt of the earth. They're from, Texas, his parents, a hard worker. Everything was like, what you can produce, you can have. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why we were
Yeah,
the
pull
same
your
like that.
bootstraps up and do it
Oh,
yourself.
100%. He would have to pick his own switch, which means if you got in trouble, you'd have to go to a tree, pick a branch to get spanked with. That
Oh
was
my oh.
Hicks. They're different. Trust me,
Wow.
Brooke. They don't think it's a bad thing.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know.
Wow.
South. It's different, but very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So we go and I drag him with me, and I had told him I want to make $1 million, and he's like, "That sounds like a lot of work for me." And he's like, "Wait, Rita, that's crazy." But he went anyway. We go to this attorney. The attorney's probably like my age, probably like 30 years old,
Mhm.
32. I think I was 32 at the time. And I said, I'm here because I want to make $1 million.
Mhm.
And he
Way
just
to
looked at
claim
me.
it. Way to
Uh,
just set
yeah.
that vision,
'Cause
girl.
I just was like, and this is what I always go back to for women that are listening or anyone that's listening is beginner's mind, what the Buddhists call beginner's mind. You approach things as if you've never heard or seen about it, because then what happens is you're open, you're
It
willing,
becomes
and to
possible.
100%, anything's possible because you're open to receive. You're open to receive information, support, like-minded
Yes.
people.
Yes.
So that's why I always go back to the story, like, how did I do that? And so I had said it, and he kinda just stared at me like, "Uh, okay, well, can you tell me?" He's like, "No, I don't know how to do
Yeah.
I'm an attorney." You know, he's an associate, it's not even a partner. He's like, "But lady, you're talking to the wrong guy." And he's like, "But okay, let's go through some things. You have a business?" We're like, "Yeah." How long we've had it? Whatever, 10 years. "Okay, are you incorporated?" "No." "Should we do that?" "Yeah, let's do that." Okay. So I just was like, mhm. I was the yes girl. I was like that bobble-headed dog when you see the
Mhm.
cars go by with the little tiger, the head that
Yep.
bobbles, that was me. I was like, "Okay." And he said, "And a few other things, like, do you have a CPA?" All these things. I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's do all the things." And then he said, "You know what I would do?" This was the brilliance of this meeting. That just seems like a big number. So I would get out, and he got out a little, the 3 by 5, or you know what I mean, the little white note card that you would use for studying.
Yeah.
And I would just write 250 per quarter or whatever. I would
Mhm.
break it down because that's a big number. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, that's a good idea. He's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I would just go for things like in smaller chunks. So think of was he telling me? Chunk it down.
Mhm.
Big goal, chunk it down. And he had said something about going to the end. I don't remember what he said, but I just went home and I just kept sitting in my little office, and I taped up the little postcard on the wall in front of me. Nothing changed. I stared at it for a week. Also, nothing changed.
Oh
It
my
was just a postcard that said 250,000 by whatever date. I was like, okay, well, nothing's happening. So what I started doing was I thought, okay, it's up there. So it's living. Now think about the process of what I'm doing is it's living in my awareness. It's
god.
living. And now, as we both know, my frequency now, my radio dial is now set to like FM 1610,
Yeah.
where before I was set at like, let's say FM, I don't know,
Yeah.
1200.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I had turned the frequency, turned it to a different channel.
Yeah.
But I wasn't communicating it yet. So we had gone to I don't know what time of year it was. And we went to a few little parties, not that we were big social people, and I was telling people, and they're like, oh, uh-huh. They're probably like, why are you telling me that? I don't know why I felt compelled to share
Mhm.
this with other people. And someone said, have you ever thought about working for municipalities? I went, I didn't even know what that meant. It was hilarious. I was like, is that like the city? He's like, yeah, the city and the county, they
Yeah.
pay a lot more than private. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then it was on, Brooke. I
Oh
got the
my
phone book
god.
out because that was the phone book days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I started calling all the local cities, and they're asking like, "Do you have this certification?" I said, "No." "Do I need it?" "Yeah, if you're certified as women-owned." I got every certification in a 4-month period of time that you could
Wow.
possibly get. I
Wow.
put the everything got moved into anyway, we did all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm Mexican, so I got minority. I don't know that it actually helped us when I think about it at the end, but
Yeah.
what it did was it got me in the energy of it was possible.
Yes.
It was possible. And
Doors
then
were opening.
doors were opening.
Evidence was being presented.
That's right.
Yes.
And so a long story short, we started bidding on projects for the city of Oakland, all these different cities and city of San Francisco, all these different cities and counties. And the contracts were astronomical compared to me coming over to a gas. We used to do like these remodel of gas stations and things like that.
Yeah.
And a private owner would pay us, let's say 50,000, and they were paying us like 350,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So we weren't qualified to do jobs of that number. So we would go in under other people, and we started realizing like, oh, we were just very, I think like most of us, we're just in our own little world.
Mhm.
And we're just like, oh, we just do this and we do this. And then you turn around, you've been doing the same thing for 5 years and you haven't scaled or done anything different because you're just kind of in your world. And
Yeah.
this was an expansion of my world into a different world of business, of construction, of like $1 billion. I was like, oh my gosh, here we're over here talking $25,000, $50,000 contracts. And these people are doing them all day long for hundreds of thousands, multiple 7 figures. And so at the end of the year, I
Wow.
think the number was like 887,000 is what we made.
Wow.
And I just kept stepping in and saying yes and going to business meetings. And I was thinking, business meeting? I had to buy a blouse to go to one of the cities. And I'm thinking, they're going to know. So when I hear this imposter syndrome, there was no one saying imposter syndrome. I just showed up and I made my own little workbook of our services, which were pictures of my
Hell,
husband on
of
the
course you
job
did.
site.
Your marketing
Yeah,
materials?
my marketing materials
You
were
made your own
snapshots.
marketing materials
Uh-huh.
before those were so essential in the
Yes.
construction industry?
Yes, and I went to the library and got a thing of how to make this like, present it yourself, and so I put a little binding on it. It was really funny. If I think back to that now, talk about the lack of perfectionism though. This is what shifted me
Mm.
from being in that space was
Mm.
that I didn't know any better, that it wasn't like it wasn't high end, obviously, but
No,
I
but you
didn't.
were scrappy about it. It was
Yes,
scrappy. It was
very
resourceful.
extremely. That was my main thing, and anyone, as you know, that grows up like that actually makes it out of that and has a way of being where they can actually be okay with themselves in the world to have that kind of trauma. And then I didn't think I had any trauma. I was so unconscious about it. I just was like, "Pfft, that's done. You crazies,
Mm.
bye." Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I survived, was to cope, was I just turned it off and
Yeah.
went forward. And
Yeah.
fortunately for my soul's existence, didn't have any addiction, codependent, extreme enabler and rescuer, but not, any kind of drugs or alcohol or anything, thank God.
Yeah.
And so doing that, it expanded my awareness of what was possible. And that
Yeah.
was the first time I had anything like that happen. Going to that meetings, it was like a board meeting. I think it was like the city of Oakland or something. And it was a regular like board meeting room, which I had never been in. And I was like, oh my God, I should leave. I should leave. And I was so like just out of my element. And I just sat there and listened, and they were like, oh yeah, we have someone here. I don't even know how I got there. And I
Wow.
passed it around, and I thought, okay, well, that's done. That they're probably laughing, and I was laughing like, whatever. I didn't care. I didn't care. There was some piece that had,
That's the key.
yeah. I
You
don't know
weren't
what.
attached to the outcome. There wasn't
Yes,
scarcity there.
yeah, no, because I don't know. It was just this was what was supposed to happen, and I
Yeah.
love that because I tell people now. I share with them like high commitment, low attachment doesn't mean that you don't want it or you don't expect it, because I expected it. I just didn't know how or when. I just had to keep showing up because I knew that would do something. And so after the meeting was over, whatever it was, um, somebody walked up to me. a guy and was saying something and, "Oh, can I get your card?" We didn't have any. Didn't think of that.
Hadn't slapped
I
that
had
puppy
pictures
together
though.
yet? Hadn't slapped that puppy together yet?
No. And so I gave him our number, and he was the one that had us bid on one of our first contracts. But
Wow.
it just was, I just kept talking about it, and people had laughed and like, "Oh, that's," even my husband at the time, he was like, "How the hell are we gonna do that?" He was not, but what he was good at was he was really good in the field. He was just, that was his jam. That was his
Yeah,
jam. Was
yeah,
in the field, this guy knew his shit.
yeah.
And I didn't do that kind of work. Obviously, I'm
And
not
you
a
could
con
sell the shit. You could sell the
and
shit and he could do the shit.
100%. Put
Yeah,
me out front. I always tell people, "Put me out front. You want something done? Put me out front. Trust me."
yeah.
But I was learning some skills that I didn't know I was learning, and one of them was, like you said, was that I was so committed. It was just like it was happening, and there was no turning back. There was no plan B. This was the fucking plan. This was the
Mhm,
plan, and I don't
mhm.
even know what the plan is, but the plan is to do that $1,000,000.
Yeah, yes,
And so what's cool
yes.
about that was all the lessons that came from it. There wasn't a failure, even when the bankruptcy and all the things that happened after that.
Mm,
It started me because everything had to fall apart. It had to, for me to be who I am today,
yeah,
because it was a house of cards. It was built on a foundation of shame and trauma and lack of worthiness. You name it. I had zero self-esteem. I thought I was the most confident person in the world
mhm.
because my confidence was based on what I looked like, what I made, what was in my
It was
driveway.
a mask, right? It was your armor.
100%. Yep.
It was your armor.
Mhm. And so just a complete 180, from that, and it took years, and I still work my process all the time, all the time. I literally had a download yesterday, like, "Oh my gosh, there's still another piece." Because it's a journey. It's not like
Yeah,
we're just one and done. It's not how it
yeah.
works, as you know.
Yeah, and that house of cards.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're in our trauma response,
Mhm.
overachieving.
Mhm.
Society is telling us, "Fuck yeah, go girl," which is why
Yes.
those are really they can get really scary and unhealthy because the world is applauding you for your success.
Oh,
And you
and we
know
still
and
do
you
it. It still
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And we don't know that we're actually I was hiding my trauma behind my achievements because if I had these level of achievements at such a
Mhm.
young age, it
Yes.
must mean that I'm not a fucking terrible piece of shit that my trauma told me that I was,
That's
right?
right. Yep.
Until so we do that. We run. We fucking climb that mountain and I'm telling you like no one will fucking there wasn't a single thing I couldn't do that I said I was going to do, right?
Of course.
Until the universe, God, basically pulls the rug out from underneath you so the whole shit can fall apart so you can
Yep.
actually get on the right path. So what was your moment that started like I am not who I'm supposed to be. I'm not on the path like the undoing of what you had been done or what you had done and what you'd actually been really successful at.
You know what's funny is I never had that moment.
Was it a series of
Uh-huh,
things?
yes,
Okay, tell us
because
about
I
that.
still was very along the way, so we did the $1,000,000 and, did the bankruptcy started, and then, um, ended up in that program, the
Mhm.
EST type, right? And that was like 1998 or say something like that,
Yeah.
and then I was hooked. I loved how I felt inside, and the issue was that he had no intention of being with someone that was gonna do that, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And so I told him all the things. He thought it was a cult. I mean, our marriage started eroding. I didn't know. I was unconscious about it because I said to myself, I'm going to inspire him by changing, and so this is how I know every soul comes in, and not every relationship is meant to last forever in the physical world. Relationships, people come and go, friends, partners, people pass, but I'm not even talking about people passing away, but just doesn't mean that your best friend might not be your best friend forever. For you never know, right?
Yeah.
It's never know.
Yeah.
And so that took about 5 years, and that put me into, even, how do I say it? Well, as a therapist, what all it did was bring up all the shit with my, because I didn't grow up with a mother, just the father, and he was extremely abusive. And so all it did was just ramp that up, brought all that shit up. So
Yeah.
that's why it never was one thing. And so then I just kept working with each piece that was coming up, and it fucking sucked. I hated
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucked. Let's get
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Now, then my husband's got other people, and so I'm like, I realized that I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a relationship and I'm committed, and he's not, because he wanted out. What's a better way to get out than start fooling around, right? It's a great out. It's a great excuse to get out without
Yeah.
saying I want out.
Yeah.
And so that was just the betrayal. All it did was bring up all my abandonment and betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thank God, because it
Mm.
had me do some of the deepest work I've ever done. And then
Mm.
I ended up with, do you know who Debbie Ford is? Do you know?
No. No.
She Dark Side of the Light Chasers, she passed about, I don't know how many years ago, but she was
Okay.
trained by Deepak. And so
Oh,
she was
wow.
one of my first mentors, and
Okay.
where I started unraveling the piece about the abuse. I was probably like, I had never even said it out loud until to one person until I was like 28. And then it was like 30, whatever I was now, like 35 or whatever,
Yeah.
36. And then, so that just started the unraveling of a lot of, just, as you know, a lifetime of which felt so far away. So for anyone, and you as well, think about it. When you grow up in a household like that's very abusive, once I moved out, I'm busy. I'm raising kids. I'm the room mom. I'm doing all my things. So it seems like 85 lifetimes ago.
Yeah.
Yet unconsciously, it's running all up our patterns, because it's a fucking, the body keeps the score, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's literally in your body. Your
It's in your body.
body is like in a response to that, or at least it's responding to so much stimuli in that triggered state.
100%. So we're constantly triggered and unconscious about it. That's what it means to be unconscious. It's just, you don't
Yeah.
even know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so that journey, it was never a one, oh, like, oh, this is it. It was all these pieces that just kept coming up. And I thought, fuck, I'm never going to be done. When am I ever going to have a life? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I couldn't see it,
Yes. Yes.
because I was just it felt like I was underwater for so
And it was just
long.
one thing after the other, one thing, it's like, and then you start to
Hmm.
doubt, like, or you start to wonder, like, am I just too fucked up? Did I come up
Oh,
did I have too
100%.
much trauma? You know, like,
I
can I
remember.
actually become?
Yeah, exactly. I remember asking one of the professors in my master's program, and I said to him, I went, "Is it possible for someone like me?" And he looked at me and he just laughed. Yeah, even if you're dead. And then he walked away.
Wha Wait, even if you're dead?
Even if you're dead, you can
Wow.
heal it. Because what he's saying is like, because
Wow.
I wanted the victim part of us, right? The victim mentality needs to have a badge of honor in our survivorhood even.
Mm,
And I still was like, I still had so much shame, and there's something wrong with me. That was my lifelong story. I knew there was something wrong with me, or else all that stuff wouldn't happen. So I knew that I must have probably done something wrong. So
yeah.
I came from the perspective consistently and constantly, okay, what did I do wrong to create this? That was my way of looking at every single thing, was that everything was my fault. So little did I know that codependency in homes like that, especially in women, we end up being the rescuer enabler most of the time.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I was an extreme enabler with my ex. I mean, but it was normal to me. That wasn't enabling. That was what I did.
Mhm.
Yep. And so Debbie Ford is the first one that said, Rita, you need to go to, what is it called? Codependent Anonymous. I'm like, I am not going to that. So I went, oh my God, Brooke, I'm
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I should probably not be invited to those kinds of 12-step programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I went because she said, you need to go. But I went and saw these people that would, you know how I've never been to a 12-step, I guess it's a 12-step program, right?
Yeah, it is a 12-step program. Yeah.
So, you know how they sit at this long table. Anyway, it's not a long story, but it's funny because I went there and I was like, look at all these. I'm totally judging everyone, right?
Oh, yeah.
But as we know, all judgment is self-judgment.
Yep.
But I'm still like, look at these fucking losers. Oh my God. So I sit down thinking, I'm getting up. I'm getting up. Every minute I was getting up, but then they
Yeah.
started. Now I can't get up. I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
I'm trapped like a rat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they start going around sharing, like, hi, I'm Bob. Hi, I'm Susie, or whatever. They're going around. I'm like, hi, I'm Rita. So they
Yeah.
go around and they start sharing. And as they're sharing, I'm thinking, oh my God. So now think about where I'm coming from. My perfect life with my BMW and all my little clothes, which I thought were just like the shit,
Mm-hmm.
and my
Yep.
business and all my things. And I'm listening to them say like, yeah, my daughter's on crack and she's pregnant. I was like, oh my God. Right. So I was thinking I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm almost last around probably a good 25 people at least.
Wow.
And as they keep sharing, do you know what I noticed? Because I've already now been doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
still early in my process, but I thought, I'm just fucking like him. It just looks prettier to me.
Oh.
Uh-huh. So that's
Wow.
one of my superpowers, is noticing where I'm doing the exact same shit. Because when I'm in judgment, it's
Mm.
self-judgment. It's never, there's no such thing, to me, there's no such thing as judging someone else. I'm judging some, when we're
Parts.
triggered. When we're
Yeah.
triggered, it's a
Yeah.
judgment. When
Yeah.
we're noticing, we're just noticing like comparisons or differences, but there's a difference, as you know, between being triggered and judging.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time they got around to me, I could barely hold back my tears. And
Mm.
I didn't share anything about my family. I said this, I went, you know what? I'm sitting here judging you all as fucking losers. It's exactly what I said.
You
And
told the truth.
I told the truth. There's a part of me that has to. And then what happens is then I'm free.
Yeah.
And I said, I've been judging you all as fucking losers. And I'm sitting here judging you and I'm doing the same shit. It just
Mhm.
looks different. And that's how and I named off a few of the things money, all the pieces about perfectionism. And I said, so thank you for being so honest. And I'm really glad to be here. And every person was
Mm.
standing in line to talk to me after,
Oh,
saying thank you.
wow.
But it was the truth for me, was just like, look at these. I mean, we're talking, as you know, you're a therapist, you probably hear some crazy stuff
Mm-hmm.
about codependency and enabling and rescuing. And that is when I started thinking like, oh my gosh, I totally do the same shit. My
Mm-hmm.
kids just haven't gone off and gotten pregnant or whatever it was. It was all this very drama. The cops came. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mine's just all covered up. Looks
Covered
pretty.
up.
Mm-hmm.
Covered up and looks pretty.
Yep. And so that,
What a
all of
moment.
that ended up, so the iteration of Rita, of just this sort of becoming who I am, has just been an undoing of all the misunderstandings that I had about who I was and what things meant in the
Yeah.
world about me and other people. Because
Wow.
as you know, when we judge, we're safe, save my little box.
Oh, yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
hot potatoing your own pain and your own work onto
100%.
something else.
Yep.
And I see a lot of leaders who lead that way.
Oh,
They
that's not
lead
leading, Brooke. That's
by,
not
yeah,
leading.
they think they're leading. They
Yeah.
think
They
they're
call
in a, let me,
themselves.
yeah,
They're
they're
in,
in a leadership role
exactly. Agreed.
while they're projecting
Yep.
their trauma under the guise of leadership. And I'm like,
100%.
you're in your
Yeah.
inner teenager, for Christ's sakes. Like, this is
Yes.
not going to work.
Yeah.
This is not going to work.
Yeah. When you see him showing up as like a 12-year-old, I'm always like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That's our politics right now. Like, it's
Oh,
all their inner fucking
are
teenagers.
they 12 even? I'm not sure.
I don't know. They're real little.
They might be sucking their thumb still, Brooke,
They're right.
with their blankie and their Pooh
Okay, so
Bear.
for the woman, and I know that we're kind of starting to wind down, but this is such an important piece, is the
Yes.
codependency piece. And I feel like
Big
because
time.
we mask so well
Mm-hmm.
and we normalize so well, I think a lot of women don't really know what codependency is and where it's
Agreed.
showing up in their life. So can you share a little bit with us where you see it in, like, say someone like me or you, where might it be showing up in our lives?
Well, here, here's what I'll say for your community and for mine as well. Here's how I see it showing up in women in general, is that especially when we have a lot on our plate, kids, and we have kids and like, right, and a business or even a corporate job, is that we'll say yes to things that we want to say no to.
Mm,
That's the number one. We say yes
mm,
to things we want to say no
mm,
to because we
mhm,
feel like here's the key word, should. That's when
mm.
you know you're in it, as you know, the
Ooh.
shoulding of yourself. I should do that because all the other moms are doing it. And then, my daughter, she wants me to go, and okay, I'll do it. So there's a piece of us that we're giving away. There's a piece, even when I say it in my solar plexus right here, that just feels it's out of alignment.
Mm,
And so our body knows when we're out of alignment, but we've learned to distrust it because we're wrapped up in the nervous system. The nervous system is in an unconscious familiar pattern of doing the same thing. That's why I say
Yeah.
DSD, do something different.
Mhm.
In order to do something different, though, what is it? First step, you got to be a little bit courageous. You got to be
Mhm.
willing to take a little bit of heat from maybe your kids or a partner or school moms
Your
or
boss or whatever.
whomever. Exactly. And so once you say yes when you mean no, you're robbing yourself of your own energy. That's the first thing. And that's an energy leak. So now
And that's codependency? How is shoulding codependent? Break
well,
this down
because
for me.
yeah, so shoulding is codependency by shaming myself into saying I should do that. Because what's underneath that is somehow if, not when,
Mhm.
it's if, which I invite people to take if out of your fucking vocabulary as much as you possibly can. If I don't, then this. And then you get into the syllogism. If this, then that. Can't get out. And whatever that if this, then that, it's bad for you if you don't do it. Do you see
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it trails down to wrongdoing. Underneath all of it, there's a root, there's a thread, even the tiniest thread of wrongdoing. If I don't, then
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
So an empowered way would be like, you know what? I'm not doing that.
Mm.
My
Mhm.
schedule doesn't really allow that. That's going to be really hard for whatever it is, whatever the choice is. Let's say it's something, let's say it's a field trip for your kids and your boss is having a fit and they're pressuring you. Cause I have a client that has this boss this woman is, um, she probably, I wouldn't say she's bipolar, but she's extremely unconscious and very egoic in the way that she barks commands at everyone.
Yeah.
And so I watch my client get shamed by the things that she says into
Mm.
doing things that she doesn't want to do. So let's say it's a boss and you want to go on your daughter's field trip. Let's just use that example. And
Mhm.
you need to leave by 3:00, not the end of the world. Nothing's
Mhm.
going to happen in 2 hours that can't get done the next day.
Right.
And they shame you when you say yes to that. And so now you're in this between a rock and a hard place. You want to go with your child and you
Yeah.
don't want to possibly lose your job. But here's the thing is when we choose from fear, what shows up from that? Nothing good.
Mm.
So I'm going to say yes to my boss and no to my child. And then while they're on the field trip, I have a stomach ache thinking, there they are. The other moms are there or dads or whomever, or I'm not there. It doesn't even matter who's there. I'm not there. And I want to
Yeah,
be there.
and I
They
wanna be
ask,
there.
and I want to be there. And so we rob ourselves of just little things like that over and over to the point where we become this almost robotic. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like just saying yes when we mean no, or doing shit we just really don't want to do, appeasing our partner when there's a value that might not line up around, like, say, child rearing or money. And instead of we get sort of gaslit, or do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
just, is it invalidated I always say, is it invalidated?
Invalidated,
So, and
invalidated.
we'll get some invalidation like, well, you don't know, you don't pay the bills. I get a lot of all
Mm.
this stuff from the one-on-one clients and they'll share with me like, well, he does handle the money. I went, and so your hands don't work with money? Like,
Yeah.
do you, what is wrong with my hands? Like,
Yeah, yeah, we can start doing that.
yes. And so I said, this is when you're ready to step in and be a fully empowered human as a woman, part of a partnership, you get to have a say. Have money dates, have money conversations. And
Mhm.
the reason we hold ourselves back and then we project it onto them saying, well, they get mad. Do you
Mm.
see how we let ourselves out?
Mhm.
Well, so we have an excuse and we stay, my work is I use the drama triangle. And then we get to just roll around the drama triangle and make it mean something. And once you're in there, you can't get out unless someone does something different from an
Yeah.
empowered way, from an
Yes.
empowered mind, from an empowered place. You don't even know how to. You don't have to know how. You just choose different. You say, I'm just going to choose me this one time and see what happens. You're not going to
Mhm.
die. Trust me. I've done it a
Mhm.
billion times.
Mhm.
And that's the beginning until we start down that road of choosing from the empowered way of being, of what is my choice? What is my true desire here? Both things will work out. The mind makes up a story that they're going to be mad. I'll lose my job. Then you go down the lose the job rabbit hole. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is to me the simplest way that codependency shows up, as we're not asking for what we want. So now our capacity to receive is gets smaller and smaller and smaller till we're not
Mhm.
really willing to ask for what we want. And then of course people will say no because life has to mirror back my internal reality. They have to say no. Because in my
Mm.
world, they're gonna say no because it's me, that's me.
Mhm.
And so
Yes. Yes.
That's how I see just the simplest. And so as I coach women entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and as you know, in coaching is, I coach them out of, and I make sure they understand how it shows up, what it looks like, the
Mhm.
language of codependency and drama triangle victim language, so
Mhm.
that they can see when they're in it. So that, because as you know, everything is about awareness. If I don't know, I don't know.
Mhm.
And
What
so,
is will you break down the drama triangle for us really quick? Because I don't think everyone knows what that is, but I
oh
do.
gosh, that's
That's
my
your
jam.
spiel. That's your
That's my jam, Brooke. I do a whole thing on the whiteboard with the drama triangle. It's the best though. So there's 3 roles, and all of the roles in the drama triangle, it's an upside down isosceles triangle. All 3 roles are victim roles, and it's the victim, the rescuer or enabler, and then the bully or the persecutor, whichever word you want to use for that.
Yeah.
And as we move, here's what I see in women the most is we're in there by ourselves, and the bully slash persecutor is our negative internal dialogue. The negative Nancy, I put it up there in the triangle. And
Mhm.
then you put you down here, and then you start to see like, oh, then I shame myself so I can stay victimized. And then what do I do to rescue myself as I'm shaming myself? What are the things that we do to rescue ourselves? So you can be in the triangle by yourself with
Mhm.
politicians. They're the bad ones, right?
Mhm.
I'm the victim. I can be the bully. It depends on if I'm with my mom and she's upset with me, then I'm the bully and she's the victim. It just depends on who's in there with us. We could be
Okay.
in there the majority of the time. We're in there by ourselves, and we're
Wow.
victimizing ourselves by saying like, look at, oh my God, you are gaining weight. Jeez. Okay, well, yep, your genes aren't gonna, so you see it's this shaming, it's subtle or it's very overt depending on how much is unprocessed there,
Okay.
how long we've been doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the rescue from that. So what I know from women that come in that want to lose weight into my groups are, you want to be rich as fuck, you want to make money, you want to do the things, join my groups. You're going to get the internal, everything's internal to external, inside out. And you'll get all the fun things on the outside as you do your work. That's how they show up.
Mhm.
And what I get sometimes is women come in that also have a weight loss goal. And
Mhm.
what they do is they've been shamed by somebody when they were young about their weight. And then we move out of our house, as you know, and then we take the beat up stick with us, and then we shame ourselves with it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And that's this negative internal dialogue. And then the rescue is eating because they
The
feel better.
self-sabotage, the sabotage.
100% has to go that way because I'm in the drama triangle.
And then that
The,
keeps us in the victim and in the shame. And
it circles.
it just
Yes,
perpetuates what the prosecutor said in the first place. It just validates what the
a
prosecutor said.
hundred, because it has
I
to.
call that the shame spiral. It's like, oh my
It
God, it's
is.
very
It's
similar, right?
yes, yes. And so then,
And you
as you
get
know,
so stuck and looping
it's
on that.
it's looping. It is looping. That's what I call it. This is a loop, and
This
you
is
can't get
looping.
out unless you notice that below the drama triangle is a triangle right side up, and it
Mhm.
superimposes itself, and that's the empowered way of being. And so each one
Mm.
of those roles transmutes and transforms into a different role. And so one, this persecutor bully becomes the challenger or the opportunity. What's the spiritual opportunity for me? I'm doing it again, awareness, acceptance without judgment. I'm doing it again. I didn't notice I was going into shaming because I saw my hand. Maybe I noticed my hand going to get a row of Oreos, right? Because that's my
Mhm.
rescue, which, like
Yeah.
you said, self-sabotage. Why in the world
Yeah.
would you go to fucking get Oreos when you're shaming yourself? Because it's a shame. It is a shame. It's a spiral. You're not going to get out
'Cause
doing
you
the
can
same.
then you don't feel the shame. You don't feel it's
100%.
a temporary relief. The
Yes.
eating the whatever's a temporary relief, but then it doubles down the shame and then you
Yep.
double down the persecution.
100%. And this happens. So what I see as the top rescuers are food, alcohol, shopping, QVC at
Yeah,
late at
I had
night.
the trifecta before I woke up. That was my trifecta. I'm
Yeah,
like, I
very
would just
common.
eat, drink, and shop
And shop.
and literally
Mhm.
not even remember it and wake up the next day and be like, I am the world's biggest piece of shit.
Right. And then the
And that would
shaming.
double down my achieving. I would have
Yeah.
to like make right what I did wrong last night.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
would try harder, which would burn me
Yes.
out further. And
Yeah.
then the stress of trying harder and getting promoted again and taking on more responsibilities would make me even more uncomfortable. So I would drink more. I
Yep.
mean, it was just the most vicious
It
cycle
it
of all
is a
time.
vicious cycle, and And the way out, and then the other rescues, top definitely food, alcohol, shopping is blaming,
Mhm.
complaining,
Yes.
excuse making, justifications, and the list just goes on. And so when you move down into the other way of being, it's literally just what's the opportunity here for me? It's a simple, simple question. People don't ask that though. They just stay in because they don't know they're in it.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of my work with my groups is to make them aware so that
Mhm.
they can, I just saw my hand go in the fridge and get, I don't know, a cheeseburger or whatever.
Yeah,
And
whatever's
so
available.
whatever's available. And so then when you flip it, you instead of the victim, you become the co-creator with God
Mm.
or universal intelligence, whatever you call it. I call it God. You
Yeah.
become co-creator manifestor. Like, what do I want to create right now? What
Mm.
is the opportunity in this challenge for me? Because I notice I'm doing this spiraling. And then
Mhm.
the other piece, which would be the rescue, is then you have a community to reach out to. You have support. You have a support system, coaching. And the coaching, it's not, doesn't have to be a coach like us. I can be my own coach. Like, hang on,
Mhm.
I got this. I can take some deep breaths. I can take a shower. I can take a walk. I can listen to an app or mindfulness meditation. The thing is that most people don't know how to slow down enough to support. Most women don't know how to slow down to support their own selves, their own
Yeah.
nervous system, in recalibrating and teaching the nervous system what the new way of being is instead of just going straight into that. That's why I
Yes.
say familiarity doesn't equal
Yes.
safety. Your nervous system, if familiar is bankrupt like mine was, what? It'll keep you at fucking zero. I'm
Oh,
proof of
yeah.
that. Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's why people that win the lottery,
Yes,
like,
right?
whatever the statistics are with that, they're like, "It's so bad." Everyone that
It's
wins the
really
lottery, because they're
mhm.
not holding the frequency of wealth. They're
No,
holding the frequency of scarcity, so they don't know what to do with the money, so they lose it.
exactly. So I hope that's helpful for the women out there that are in your community to really hear that it's not that we're doing anything wrong. We just don't know what we don't know sometimes. And to me, our job as humans on this planet, on this path of being light bearers, is to do our own work. And then we have the ripple effect when we're out in the community of, like you said, being wealthy and showing the person next to you, right?
Mhm.
Having kindness in our language towards ourselves and other people. So other people are like, what? Maybe they're gossiping. You're like, oh, I'm not going to participate in that. That has a ripple effect on people, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's to me is everything, is just who we're being rather than what we're doing. So
Yeah.
how you're being is always going to be the person that you think that you want to be her right now.
Mm.
Sometimes we project it out in the future. Like when I do this, when I'm 110 pounds, when I'm me, like when I have the $1,000,000 and all my problems will be solved. It just made them worse. See what I mean? Because I was doing it from the same mind that created all the other shit. And so
100%.
so instead of projecting a future of I want to be that woman, be her right now. How would you embody that? How would you embody that kindness, that wealth, right? That loving for yourself and other people, the grace that you would give yourself and
Mhm.
embody that right now. And then what happens is then we start to open up a little bit and then things
Mhm.
start showing up for us and the receiving part shows up because our capacity to receive is tied to our nervous system and
Yes.
shame. A
Yes.
lot of shame, low capacity to receive. We
Yeah.
both are 100% proof of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, Rita. So literally there was so many good things in there, baby. And I just want to honor you. Like, I feel like I really see you and see
Mm.
your soul, and I see your strength, and I see your tenacity that is now harnessed in the right way. Like
Yes.
our strength was just misfiring. That's all it is because we didn't know what we didn't know. And when you can
No.
start to harness your strength and your gifts and your
Yes.
gold, it's fucking magic. And when I think about what we could do collectively as women, when we all heal our shame and we
Mhm.
all remember our gifts and we start doing this work, what could be possible in the collective literally gives me fucking goosebumps every
Me
day.
too. Yeah, I agree. I just think that we are so powerful. Um, just all of our souls, we're not here on accident. I know
Mm-mm,
one thing, there are no accidents, none whatsoever. I mean,
mhm,
if there are, my life doesn't work and nothing I do works. And it's just, it's very humbling to know that we're part of this fabric of the divine, and it feels very like wrapped in a blankie. of just loving and kindness and grace. And so often the mind, especially the egoic mind, not the healthy ego that gets us ready and gets us on gets our makeup on, comes on
Keeps us
camera,
safe.
right,
Mhm.
keeps us all the things. But the wounded part of the ego that likes to spin and do all the stories and all the story making, it's I wouldn't say it's not hard. We make it hard though.
Mm.
We make it hard by being in resistance. And
Mm.
so I love curiosity and I love just like, what if? That's why I don't say if a lot because to me it's just a very, well, if it works out, it's like, it's kind of a learned hopelessness piece for me. There's a thread in there. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But if I did a what if of like, what if I just showed up today loving and just shot arrows I do that sometimes when someone's really negative in public. I
yeah.
shoot these arrows, love arrows into them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You're
I don't know if
sh
they're going to,
No,
I
I
shoot
feel
love
like
arrows.
Care Bear light. I shine my
Oh,
Care
Care
Bear
Bear
light.
stare. Oh,
Yeah.
Care Bear
Oh,
stare.
yeah, the Care
You
Bear.
got to
I'm
have a
just
Care
like
Bear
Care
stare.
Bear. I'm just out here Care Bearing people left and fucking right.
I love that. It's coming out of my belly. My Care Bear stare. Which was the one I liked? It was the pink one. I don't remember what the name
Oh, I
was.
know. I don't remember the details. When I think about like us harnessing our strength and our power,
Mm-hmm.
the image I get is the Care Bear stare.
Yes, I love it. And remember they would stand in a circle and just have their
Yeah,
bellies.
together.
Yeah, together. That's us as women, Care Bears.
Yeah, we could literally solve the world's fucking problems from
Well,
that
it's true.
energetic.
And that's why I love to coach women into wealth, into scaling their business, into doubling and tripling their revenue. And most of all, being
Mm.
profitable, profit
Yes.
first.
Yes.
And so that you have more freedom, you have more of a voice, you have more capacity to do more good
Mhm.
and more women in charge. To me, conscious women, look out,
Look
the
out.
world will be better. And at some point, it might not happen in my lifetime, but I know that this is the way that consciousness is going. It's just how it feels very in alignment.
Yeah. There's a big
And so,
waking up right now. There's a
yeah,
big surge of waking up right now, and
I
I'm here
agree.
for it, and I'm
Yeah,
here
me
for
too.
it.
I
It's
love
an
it.
opportunity. We're all like I said it on my podcast that I released today. We're all like radical free agents just out here reconfiguring, which is really hard on the human.
Yes, the human part doesn't love
The
it so much
human, like
sometimes.
going back to what you're saying around like regulate your nervous system, take care of your
Mhm,
human, because if you reconfigure with intention, this is
mhm.
such an opportunity to step into the fullest expression of who you are, to manifest what you want, to co-create the reality that you desire. All of it. It's all here and available to us if we can withstand what like taking care of our human so it's not trying to decide. It's such a spiritual opportunity. And I
For
love that you
sure.
said like what else is my question that I love to give people is what else might be possible? And
Mhm.
then you said it earlier, what's the opportunity here?
Always.
That question will shift your energy and shift your life, and that's literally the title of the podcast I released today, cuz that one
Oh, awesome.
changed my life. Like even in the crunchiest of times, I'm like, what is this teaching me? Like, what is this
Mhm,
preparing me for? And
mhm.
that has put me in a different realm of creation when I can see things through that lens versus it's all happening to me and bad and I'm never
Right.
going to and people are bad and they blah 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 blah.
And that's the piece is that as long as you're living from things are happening to me, you're in the drama triangle. You're a victim of whatever's, going
That's
on.
right.
The
That's
truth
right.
is it's happening for us. The world is benevolent. The universe is benevolent. It's
Mhm.
not here to hurt you or out to get you, except when our old story says that's your only experience, of course, then that has to be your experience because that's the expectation. It's like, when you're, say, in a partnership or you have a friend and you think they're a certain way, like, oh, he always does that. It's one of my no fly words is always because it's in always and you can't get out of it. It's very limiting, always. Always and
Mhm.
never are extremely limiting,
Mhm.
whatever you put around it.
Mhm.
And so if I think, oh, well, men always cheat on me. Someone said that in the thing. I always get partners that cheat. Of course, you're always going to get partners that cheat because you're just fucking embedding a command into your brain, into your mind, not your brain. Your brain's healthy, into
Yeah.
your mind that says that's what's going to happen. So you're pre-paving your world with your language, because our language shapes our reality, creates our reality. Literally, thoughts become things, as we both know. And so these pieces are all kind of interwoven in this work that we do. And this platform that we have is just what a beautiful thing that you're doing, is bringing these messages of love and compassion and growth and opportunity. Like, this is an opportunity, ladies, to step the fuck up. Let's step up as women and as mamas, as grandmas, as aunts, uncles, daughters, sisters, and show the world that each one of us has a way of being that can heal someone else with a kind word, or with a kind gesture, or hugging our child when they come home and they've been bullied, or whatever it is, so that they know they're okay, and giving them their own way of being that isn't 100% rooted in shame. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's going to experience shame. It's a part of the capacity of humans, is that we can experience it. I don't believe we're born with it. I think someone has to give it to us, and they deposit in you, and then it's my job to release that shame. I mean, it's not the most fun thing in the world.
We didn't sign
But
up
it's
just for fun, but there can be some sprinkled in there. Don't worry, guys. We can still like have I love to have like a playful energy to the hard work. That helps me
of
navigate
course.
it. And I like to
Yeah.
find the humor. I like to find the ridiculousness
Oh, that's
in
I could write an
everything.
SNL skit. I could be a writer on their show with all the shit that I've been through. I was like, oh my God, I could make so much fun out of this shit. Me and my sister literally could have our own comedy routine. You have to make this, you can't even make it up. You have to laugh about it.
That's
You can't
right.
make it up. Yeah.
That's
Super
right.
good.
Okay. Tell the beautiful people where they can connect with you, or what program, like all the things, all the details.
All the things. So RitaMarieConsulting.com. I'm sure you'll put all your little pieces in your show notes. So that's my website. My Wealth and Wisdom group. It's a wait list this month. We're opening up registration later this month in April. So I'm not sure when you're going to release the podcast, but it's coming soon. So some little freebies for people if they want to go in from your show and hop on, and they can book a little short one-on-one call with me and just see, what's up for them. But Wealth and Wisdom is coming. I have a podcast, as you know, Stop Bending Over, Align Your Life for Radical Success. I kind of do what Brooke does, just really here supporting you ladies in growing your lives and growing your expansion of consciousness. And and so they can just hop on and check it out and see if they like it. And on Instagram, Rita Marie Mendez. So
there you go. Yeah,
yes,
check out her podcast. If you thought today was juicy, I can't imagine how many fucking gems are over there. I would
so
love
funny.
to also, Rita, at some point, because I have a mastermind that I run now, I would love to have you in as a guest coach one of these times.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
To empower my ladies on wealth and just wealth and wisdom. Ooh, that sounds good. Hey, mama, if you made it to the end of this episode, I just want to virtually high five you, because you've said yes to the opportunity of taking better care of yourself. And that is so meaningful and so amazing. You have no idea the ripple of goodness that's to come. If you've been enjoying the show, if you've been finding it helpful, if you've laughed a little or learned a new technique, will you do me a favor? Will you make sure that you're following the show, that you've given us a 5-star rating and left a review? That will absolutely help us get this podcast into more heads and hearts of as many mamas as possible, because when we heal the mother, we heal the world. Also, if there's a specific episode that you've loved, will you make sure to share it with a friend? Just send them the link, or share it on social media, and make sure you tag me at Brooke Jean Unperfected, because I absolutely love seeing that this is actually giving you the impact that you so desire and deserve. Thank you so much, mamas. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves and therefore each other.